All right, Mike Dennis, are you in the house?
I'm in the house.
I'm in the house too. We are on the internet. We're famous now.
We are on the internet.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Famous Derek and Famous Mike on the internet. We also have semi-famous Ayako and Naoko in the background, but did you hear? It's true. We are not one of those companies that lies about the staff that we have in the office. Which sounds funny, but I've heard it a couple of times, like those single-person exporters being like, yeah, I'll send it over to my team. Our team will get that handled. And our team is basically like just him.
It's me. I'm on the team.
Am I on mute? Can you people hear me? Don't tell me. I don't want to hear about that. Can anyone? Can you check to see if you can hear me? Turn up the stereo or the speaker thing.
Yeah, no, I can hear.
Ah, why did someone say that we're on mute?
Elias, got
All right, turn that down because I can hear myself like a second and a half after I say everything. Have you ever had a phone call where it was like that and you just can't concentrate because all you do is hear yourself saying what you're saying?
I'm like, I'm sorry, we can't do this.
Yeah, for people who didn't see the live chat last week, yes, this is what happens when you don't cut your hair. It tends to grow. That's what I have right now.
But the haircut is in the works, right? In preparation.
Probably not.
What?
Yeah, I want to see how long I can get it before I have a complete mental breakdown. Okay, so yeah, let's start. Mike, what do you want to do? This is a live show. What do you want to do in the live show? I'm going to throw it out to you because I appreciate your feedback.
Okay, well maybe we should throw it out to the chat.
Maybe we should do a live haircut.
Yes, that's what I want to do. Yeah, we could.
I like how Victor's comment. Do you still have the old Nissan Homie pedo van got flagged for spam?
Perhaps we could answer some questions. I see some reoccurring questions. One is what's going on with the Moto Campo. The other one's what's going on with the City Turbo.
Okay, so good questions, I guess. Moto Campo has been in the shop now for I think 5 weeks. Finally, we got an update. I guess I think it's kind of a difficult thing for that shop to handle this sort of problem, and then the guy who runs the shop is like one of those guys who's like, you know what, I don't really like doing any work until somebody gets on my ass about it.
Yeah, I see that from him for sure.
I mean, he's a nice guy and he's friendly,
really nice.
But he's like, you know what? I don't want to own a shop. What am I doing here with my life?
I just like bikes.
And yeah, so Naoko, as always, saves the day by asking him, hey, what's up with the bike you've had for 5 weeks and the repair should only take 4 or 5 days? And he's like, all right, I guess I should do that. Elias says your shop sucks, and it's kind of true. They didn't repair the motor as much as I wanted them to repair that bike either. None of the turn signals really work. On one of them it doesn't work at all, and on the other side it only it doesn't flash, it just comes on. And so it's kind of dangerous to drive. You have to hand signal it everywhere, and then it's kind of sketchy to go one-handed.
Yeah. Yeah. So low.
Yeah, and small wheels and short wheelbase.
Yeah.
Just like it's not very stable type of bike. And yeah, he said probably a little more than a week from now, and he's also going to fix the brakes, and the brakes kind of sucked on the Moto Campo, and then we're going to get it, and I'm going to drive it, and it's going to be fun.
Yes.
And what's the city? Were you going to say something, Mike?
No, I was just going to say, what's the scoop on the city?
The scoop on the city. I guess some people know where we're at with that, some people don't, so I'll kind of fill everybody in. We bought the city a year and a half ago. Brought it in, didn't have any inspection on it, so I bought it blind because really the City Turbo, and for those who don't know, because there are people who don't know, the City Turbo 2 is here. We'll show my brother Joshua with his City Turbo that he bought from us. It's a little hatchback. This one's not the one that we had, but it's a good picture. And they're cool. Cool little turbocharged Honda. Smaller than a Civic. Very 80s. Only available in Japan for the Turbo 2. So I bought one. I always loved it. sent it to the shop because it wasn't running, and it turned out to be clogged injectors, so no problem there. It wasn't very expensive. Got it running. Ran it home, puffing a lot of blue smoke, engines misfiring, and now that's where it is. It stopped being able to start for a while, but then magically fixed itself. And for now, it's just kind of sitting there awaiting further instruction. And it's very rusty. And I feel like to repair things properly, we're looking at like $10,000 or something. But I might cheaply do it because I don't have $10,000 to spend on one. I'm going to view more because I saw... Cool.
Oh, there's also another question which says, what is your dream car? Might be quite topical since the City Turbo's on.
My very first dream car is Austin Mini, which I bought for my first car, and that was very nice. After that, actually no, my first real dream car was the C3 Corvette when I was a kid, because I just thought that was so cool that the cars could look like that. And I still think it's a cool looking car, but not something that I'd be interested in ever really owning. And then after that was the Smokey and the Bandit fire chicken thing. Trans Am, I don't even know what year, 1982 maybe? Nah, earlier than this.
Firebird.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
I thought that one was supremely badass. And especially like a lot of people who had these when I was a kid would always rev them at the lights and do burnouts and things, and I just thought that is so cool in my limited view of the world when I was 6 or 7 years old. And
Still
then
think they're cool.
and they are cool. Muscle cars are cool, but they're cool in a different way than most of the cars that I want to own. And so the Mini was my first like car that I fell in love with as a semi-adult when I was in high school. And then the City 2, the City Turbo 2, was another one of those cars. And from there, I guess other cars I liked, it was mostly Toyotas. I really liked the GT4 and the 86. My wife had owned the 86, so I got a chance to drive that. I was very happy about it. I don't really know what else now I would consider as like a favorite car.
NSX.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we've talked about that semi-frequently. And I really like the S2000 as well. And I like the Type R Integra and Accord. And of course I like Evos and WRXs, and I like the Supra and the Sylvia. But that's the problem, is when you have liked cars for so long, it's hard to pick out just a single car. You just want, there are so many to choose from, and just buying one can be limiting your ability to drive awesome cars. And yeah, the 2-liter Beams 9AM AC8 does have a pretty bad sounding exhaust, but they're sweet cars, and so.
Was that the Altezza?
Yeah. I suspect he's talking about it. There is another 2-liter Beams engine. In the Celica, they have a version of it, but probably Altezza is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go do something. Mike, I don't feel like making any decisions today, so can you make all the decisions? I'm just gonna sit back and just it'll be my show still because it's my face, but basically you can run the scenes.
I was just thinking, you look like your haircut is very Japanese style.
Is it?
Yeah.
This is the have a shower and then go to bed. And you remember when you came in, or when I came in this morning, you were like, "Wow, your hair's puffy." Yeah. I put water on it to.
Yeah, now it looks very.
To make it less puffy.
Very Japanese, I think.
I guess so.
You could be in a boy band, Japanese boy band. Yeah.
Except I don't speak Japanese.
Speaking of.
And I don't think that people would buy into that. I think that you have to be Japanese to be in a Japanese boy band. Otherwise, I think the other members of the band probably would kick me out.
Yeah, they'd be like, "You're too different."
Yeah, you have naturally non-black hair.
Do you know?
And they all have like pink and purple hair.
Yeah.
Not like I watch Japanese boy bands that often. And I did look up Zac Efron. Thank you everyone for mentioning that I look like him because he's a slice. Especially nowadays with those big six-pack muscles. Yeah, if you want to compare me to Zac Efron, I have no problem with that.
I love it.
Oh, and somebody said you should grow a mustache. I happen to get a fantastic mustache. My wife can attest to that, right? Say yes. She hates mustaches. And I happen to really love the kind of... How do I put this? I love how ugly mustaches are and how much you look like a 70s person. And but the only thing, like if I had a mustache, it would be like an inside joke for myself, but everybody who saw me wouldn't realize that it's a joke. So they would think, why does he have a mustache? And to myself, I'd be like, I'm the funniest guy in the world. And nobody else would think that's funny.
Like that. Your upper lip is dirty.
I'm thinking about the line from Super Troopers. Do you know that movie?
I think so.
I'm not going to say the line. It would be inappropriate for the live chat. I'm starting to get a little bit sick, so I hope that we're not completely sick for this weekend, Mike. Yes. What do we got going on this weekend?
We got, can I say it?
Uh-huh.
We got a race. Racing. Someone else asked for race car update.
Yep, and no race car updates. You guys don't get to find out what's going on with that until everything is done. Because I've explained it before, but we have a track record of getting people's hopes up and then not coming through with cool video content, and so I don't want to do anything like that. So there is something, and it will come out eventually, but no more details than that, really. And then focus your admiration instead to calling me Zac Efron, because that's really where it's at here.
Please just admire me and my looks. Like, we have all the videos. It's not that we're getting people's hopes up and dashing. It's just, like, it takes too long. So it's kind of a letdown, I think, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, like, I have an image in my mind of how I want things to come out. And if they don't come out strictly within the boundaries of my image of how I want it to be done, I find it disappointing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's good to have high standards, but if your standards are too high that nothing ever comes out, then this is a concern. And so that's something I struggle with, because we could put out something that's kind of terrible.
Or some
and we have a history of things that skirt on the terrible. I just don't want to do that. So
we're doing it because we care. We want everyone to have good content to watch.
Someone says I'm like Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates, but I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, my popular culture knowledge is completely lacking. I lived in Japan for too long. Do you know Hall & Oates?
No, it sounds like a competing...
And you're a millennial. You're supposed to know these things.
How dare you?
I'm a millennial too, officially.
Yeah.
1982. Millennial blood, represent. That's my jam, right?
We did live through the millennium, I guess. I'm just trying to search for questions.
I see a lot of people talking about FCs in the comments. I love a good FC. In fact, I think a good FC is better than a good FD, even though the FD I think is a cooler looking car. I just love the feel, the build quality of the FCs.
Oh, there's a question.
Hall & Oates is from the 70s, that's why I don't know it. Okay, Mike.
Yes.
We found a good picture. I'll be the blonde one and you can be the brunette. You're gonna get the mustache though, which is a little bit not fair.
We could do like a little swap.
And the jean jacket vest.
That I'm excited about.
This picture represents everything that I aspire to be.
And you know it would look great.
I was
convertible, right?
I guess that's closer to me right now.
That looks more creepy, arguably.
It's interesting. He has very feminine eyes, but a masculine jawline. I would need to get reconstructive surgery in order to get that going. I already have the feminine eyes.
That sorted.
Oh man.
This is taking us strange. Who are these guys?
I don't know. I think I found a rabbit hole I would like to dive down. Let's go back to our show. Welcome to the show, everyone. We are Hall & Oates fans from today. I'd go for the FC over the Mark III Supra, Mr. Ninja Cookies. And Elias wants us to search for used cars on the internet. That's weird.
How about a Volkswagen graveyard?
All right, send me some things, some cars to look at.
Used cars. Someone was asking for R30 Skylines, and then they wanted to compare wagons to sedans. If you have an opinion on that, I don't know if we'll be able.
I don't think you'll find very many wagons.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can find in here. When was the last year of the R30s? 1986? Ah, we do have a wagon. Excellent.
It's a lucky day.
And it's not at a USS auction. Oh no, it is not. It is the Passage version, but not the Wagon Passage.
Oh, I love these.
Why do you love these?
The seats are great. They're the only type of seats like this that I've ever...
The steering wheel on the seats.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of want to buy this now.
Yes. I would support this. Oh, it doesn't have the nice seats. But that's a great looking car.
I thought all the Passage versions were the wagons, but I guess not. Well, no wagons for you right now. I'm sorry. The wagons rarely come up for auction, to be honest.
Oh. Someone also says you look like Ken from Street Fighter.
I'll take that,
That's
too.
cool. Yeah.
Sure you can.
You're getting compared to a lot of very athletic, cool people.
People with abs. That's the... And in case anybody was wondering, I'm not going to show you my lack of abs, because that's exactly what it is. Once you are 36 years old like me, it's impossible to have abs unless you already had abs when you turned 36. I've determined that. I'm liking this. A 4-door DR30.
That looks cool.
With the those seats, the red two-tone, or the original seats in it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty modern for...
Man, everything was pretty modern. In fact, it was post-modern.
Oh.
This was like the view of the future from the 1980s. They're like, in the future, everybody is going to fly in space in cars that look like this.
Yeah. That looks prepped for space flight.
So, condition-wise, let's go over this. It's a 1984 RSX TB-C. It's turbo with intercooler. It's the DR30. A lot of people know the term DR30 because it's the RS turbo version, whether it be 4-door or 2-door, which is a little bit weird because for the next, from the R31 on, they got different chassis codes for 4 doors and 2 doors. So mileage is unknown on this. Odometer shows 28,000 kilometers, but it says in 2011 it had 179,093 kilometers. The dashboard has screw holes, aftermarket exhaust, underside surface rust, and dented. The jack and the wrench for jacking it up have been removed. Engine oil has a minor leak in it. Inside the trunk has rain, or I guess water from rain. Drive shaft grease is leaking. That's usually not a big problem, but you might have troubles finding drive shafts for these nowadays. And then if the grease is coming out of the boot, then that may mean it's driven without enough grease and has damaged the CV. It says the vehicle doesn't drive very well, but doesn't give details. And then the gauges have been changed from the regular 180 kilometers an hour over to 260 kilometer an hour gauge set. And rear floor has been dented from an accident. The body seems to be pretty good for the age and no signs of corrosion, so this could still be a good one for somebody to grab. You might find the drive shafts are pretty easy to replace. They may swap over to something that's more modern, like maybe the R31 or R32 might have used similar or the same drive shafts. Or you could just convert it completely like muscle car people do. You can get these conversions with the universal joints that you can convert one drive shaft to a different axle, and so you can put in a different axle in the back if you really need to. When it comes to an old car like this, you kind of have to get used to doing repairs, like one-off style things, because it is pretty old. Cool car though, Mike.
I like it a lot.
I like the fender mirrors on it.
Yeah.
I like how it's just a little bit darky, just like me.
I feel like it'd be difficult to own.
For what reason?
Like reliability and servicing and stuff. These are still the carbureted ones, right?
No, not carbureted. I don't think so. I think there may have been carbureted R30s, but any of the turbo ones, I believe that they were all fuel injected.
Okay. Also, Carl Markley said, "Are we looking for an editor or VFX and motion graphics?"
Carl, if you have experience doing video editing and graphics and stuff like that, send an email to us because we'd be interested in talking to you. I mean, we're quite interested in hiring people to do that, but there would have to be a business case for it to be done. And with the amount of subscribers and followers that we have on YouTube, there's not much money that comes in. And so if there's a chance that our content could be good enough to bring in a number of subscribers, then we would be willing to pay an X amount for that. And so it really depends a lot on what you're expecting to get out of it, and what the future benefits could be. At the moment, YouTube gives us like $3 for a video.
Back.
Yeah. Here you go. You put your video up. Here's $3. Oh, great. The funny thing about YouTube is we haven't taken any of the money out of YouTube since we started in 2008 or 2009. We started the YouTube channel, and so we just have this big pile of money waiting in YouTube, and they're like, you know what? I hope it doesn't expire because I never really looked into that.
Oh, that might be, yeah.
Sorry, you didn't take the money out after 10 years. You don't get it.
Yeah. I gotta go for a pickup.
Yeah, okay, so from now on, Mike is going to be gone. I'm going to be doing this solo. I'm flying solo.
The keys are hanging there, right?
For the race car? Yeah.
Okay.
And the door mirrors came in today. Yes, we can actually see behind us from now on. Okay, so we're without Mike here, it's going to be a little bit challenging. I'm going to be mostly focusing on the chat section here. So if you have cars that you want to send in, I can maybe scroll back and see a few of them. But mainly, I'm going to be checking cars that you guys send in. Send me the auction number and the name of the auction here. No USS auctions, of course. 1992 Civic EG hatch price range. Lots of money. We very rarely sell them to people in the USA. Maybe 2 of them in the last 10 years we've been in business, simply because they just cost so much and have gone up a lot recently. They're going to be something of a future classic. Maybe similar in market position to a C3 Corvette is nowadays. Coming back full circle. Waifu for Laifu. Ayako, do you know what a waifu is?
What is it?
No. Japanese people don't know what waifu is.
Like wife?
Yeah. It's like if you're into anime and stuff, like otaku, then a waifu is like somebody who, like, I don't even know how to explain what it is. It's like people use it to make fun of people who are into anime all the time, and then people who are into anime, they also talk about it. I don't know. I'm outside the loop. But you hear it all the time these days. Okay, so 31013, I'll take a look at that one. If somebody has a better description of what a waifu is, then let me know. It's just like your anime love interest, says Falling Pizza 11. And that's why I don't have an anime love interest. My last anime love interest was Sailor Moon.
I thought it was Ariel.
When I was 14. Oh no, Ariel came before that. I was so done with Ariel after I was 14. Falling Pizza, if you have any swear words in it, then the algorithm hides it. Same thing goes for Elias. You put in turds. The word turds, I guess, gets flagged. I'll show that one. And what was that number again? 31013. Okay, so MR2 with some snazzy TE37 wheels on it. And has a the .10 license plate, means they paid extra to get a special license plate on there, which is a little bit weird because usually for this generation they would try to get a 20 on the end because it would be like the chassis code SW20. And then the earlier generation it would be an 11 for AW11. Also had something else weird about the license plate. Oh no, it doesn't. It comes from Nagoya, so no problem there. The red paint on these tends to fade drastically, especially on this black plastic cover piece. And then the spoiler and the pop-up headlight places. It looks like this one's possibly been repainted. It kind of looks too shiny for a car of this age. Let's have a look at the auction sheet here. Let's put this one up here. So it's a 94. 94 is the round taillights, meaning you get the full 250 horsepower instead of the 220, which is good. Good for you. The Japanese one doesn't come with more power than the American version of this, unlike many of the cars in Japan at the time. So a 94 GT, that's the turbo version, 148 to 51 kilometers is, I guess, reasonable. These tend to hold their condition pretty well over higher mileage, I've found. Unfortunately, they're also a car that people don't take care of well enough, and so a lot of them have just turned into junk cars by now. So this one has something that would concern me a bit, and is something that would be useful if you're looking to buy cars. Notice how the body is all very clean on here, almost no marks. There's a tiny scratch here and a tiny dent here. For a car that's this old, that's a little bit of a concern. Maybe the car is really taken care of, but almost always not this well, unless it's a Ferrari or something that people would keep indoors all the time. But this one here has had a full repaint done to it. And if there's a full repaint with very few marks on it, that means the repaint has likely been done recently. And here in Japan, repainting is very expensive. It's like $6,000 or $7,000 to get it done on a car. And like compared to other countries, like the US might get the same quality paint job for like $2,500. And so what some people do is they know that shiny cars will attract people to buy them at the auctions, and so it's common for people to buy a car at auction, repaint it as cheaply as possible, knowing that the auction isn't going to be able to find any marks on the body that make it look unattractive for people that are potential buyers. And because of this, it's kind of like a loophole. When I see a car that says a full repaint on it and it's looking pretty clean, it's almost always going to be a poor quality repaint. Even though painting is expensive in Japan, the average painting is not very good compared to other countries, I would say. And so it's good to click on this one here. Has this car been at auction before? Just to have a quick look to see if someone bought it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, painted it, and put it back to auction. And in this case, that's not what happened. But that's not to say that this car wasn't cheaply painted maybe 2 or 3 years ago for the same purpose. Now the auction grade is at 3.5, but it also has some damage from an accident, but it wasn't repaired, and so that's why it's not an R grade. So it says the left section of the core support is dented, but it's not enough for them to have repaired that section of it, so it would have been a very minor accident. And then the fender has been replaced there. So maybe 5 to 10 kilometers an hour, something very, very minor. But nonetheless is something that some people would consider frame damage, and so it could be a turn off to some people. Okay, so I'll go over the rest of it here. So it says aftermarket memory Navi with digital TV tuner. None of that's going to be useful outside of Japan. Aftermarket 16-inch wheels, lowered car with adjustable suspension. Aftermarket full bucket seat. Here's a better picture of that. This kind of seat is sometimes owned by people who drive their car on the street, but often driven by people who drive their car in a race, because obviously it makes a big difference in a race. I personally hate a seat like this unless it's a race car. because it's such a pain in the butt to get in and out of, and the MR2 is already not that easy to get in and out of because of a low roof line up here and then low seat. Go back to this sheet here. Oh, dislike the steering wheel. Shift knob wear, seat ripped, faded, small rip on it. An aftermarket seat like that commonly rips. Steering wheel wear, underside scratched. Exterior small scratches, engine oil leak, which could be troublesome on a car like this because the engine sometimes has to come out in order to fix some of the areas for leaking. And the right side mirror electric folding doesn't work. I don't think it's a great car, but at 1994, 25 years old, there's not an awful lot of great ones of these, and the great ones tend to be like 1.2 million or like $10,000 plus fees. This one will probably be somewhere around, and that's a lot for an MR2. This one will probably be somewhere around, I can see as low as 300 and as high as 500,000 yen, so somewhere around 4,000 US dollars or so to get this one. Might be a little bit higher than that because the body is really nice, and it would be easy for people to get tricked into that, like the full repaint, making the car look better, but it actually makes it look worse. It looks pink here, but it's just the camera, I suppose. Interesting. Just gonna go back into the chat and see what people are talking about. Snow White Super says GTRs are overrated. Get a GTST and do slidey things. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to do slidey things, then don't get a GTR. But the difference between a GTST and a GTR is significant, and you can't make a GTST the same as a GTR because modifications don't give the car the same feeling of it. So while you can make a GTST faster than a stock GTR, the GTR is kind of the party, the best man in the party. It's a car that once you have it, you know you have the highest trim. You don't have to feel like you got the lower trim of the car. And the GTRs are always going to have like a classic car value to them, but the GTSTs aren't going to gain that value. And for me, a stock GTR, I would prefer much better than a lightly tuned GTST. Speaking of the RB26 versions of the car, the R35, I don't really know that car very well at all. Volkswagen Beetle Type 1, that's an interesting one, Carl. Let's have a look at that. Because here in Japan you can get the newer ones. This one here is an older one. But they made Beetles up until 2003 in Mexico, and then some of the Mexican ones made their way over to Japan, and it's very cool. And they're incredible to drive because it's a cool mix of a very old chassis, but a decently modern engine, and kind of modern interior too. Very, very cool cars. And they feel way better to drive than most cars from like the 1970s and older, even though it's engineered in, I guess, 1930s or 40s. I didn't like the Beetles so much until I got to drive one. Way more fun to drive than I thought that they would be. And the newer ones, I think they're 1600 engines. Not the fastest engines, but they don't feel that slow either. Yeah, Bill, Mike's gone for a bit doing a pickup there. We have a Hi-Ace and an Odyssey leaving the lot right now. So mileage on this one is unknown. It's been modified with Solex carbs, which is really cool. These Beetle engines have always modified very well. This one here is an original Japan car. Did Ayako just leave?
Yes, we're doing something.
Ah, okay. What else does it say? Iron tail. Beetle people will know what an iron tail is. Maybe somebody in the chat. I have a feeling like it's like one of the styles of these, but I don't know. Like oval windows are more expensive and split windows are the most expensive. Iron tail might be something that has value to people who know the Beetles. Porsche wheels, yep, that's kind of cool. Pretty common on the Beetles, especially kind of back in the day when those wheels weren't as expensive as they are now. Has wooden panels put into it, has been lowered. I think that these cars use, what kind of suspension is that? Torsion beam suspension, so that you can lower it without actually purchasing products. You just turn the beam. Slotted rotors, definitely what you're going to need in a Volkswagen Beetle. That's kind of cool, actually. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see them through the Porsche wheels very well, but cool. It's a cool car. 1971. Seems to be in pretty good shape. It's not an original silver two-tone, but it looks of it. And then front inner panel is dented. Other accident damage like front floor and front inner panel. No, front panel, front inner panel. Different things. Oil leak on it. Headliner is dirty. Not really a problem. Beetles are a great car if you want to restore something because they're very simple and parts are everywhere. Same as the original Minis. Various surface rust and corrosion on the car. Key cylinder doesn't work very well. Maybe the key gets jammed a little bit when you're trying to start it. And then it says something about the engine that I can't read. I would need Naoko or Ayako or Aoi to read that for me because I can't read it. Cool car. Prices for the classic ones, I don't know. They're one of those cars that's going to have vastly different prices depending on the year and the condition for that year, and so it's really hard for me to tell without being an expert, which I'm definitely not. We've only sold two of these, 2 regular Beetles and 2 convertibles, and the convertibles were quite a bit more expensive, but with only 4 points of data, I can't give you a good understanding of the patterns. The highest value car, 4.7 million yen. No, 7.8 million. Pardon me. How do you say that name? Conformation 07 says, is the BRZ coupe still common at auction? I would say that they're semi-common. Today is not a busy auction day, but let's see if we can find some. They come in station wagons too, which is super cool, with a 6-speed manual. And what year did they start? 1996 for the AE 111s. So none of those, but you also have to look for Sprinter Tourneaus. Sprinter Tourneur. And none of those right now. I wouldn't say that they're too hard to find. Good value. They're like 200 to 400,000 yen. So less than $2,000 on the good but lower end, not the crud cars. Moan Prosper sends in an Evo 75227. Let's have a look at that. Evo 7. 7s are going to be the cheapest of all of the Evos if they aren't there already now. Evo 1s are legal for the US, so they're expensive at around $1 million. Evo 2s are just about to be. I think that they are within a few months. And Evo 1, 2s, and 3s are in very short supply. Evo 4s at the moment are the cheapest out of all, but I think that the 4s are going to become more expensive than the 7s because they're on the smaller chassis. And then of the 7, 8, 9, the 8 and the 9 get a lot higher prices than the 7s. At the moment, well, let's take a look at this one. And Mitsubishis tend to rust, and this one's no different. It has pretty serious problems with it, hence the grade 3. And grade 3 is a little bit funny. Sometimes grade 3 is really bad, like in this case, and sometimes it's not so bad. Sometimes a grade 3 is just a car that's been in a small accident that wasn't even enough to require anything to be replaced, and then they just made it 3 because there was frame damage. So it says the AC doesn't work. Center pillar has paint marks, i.e. there has been a repair to the center pillar, which is kind of a big deal because center pillar is structural to the very top of the car. You might find that the car's noisier inside due to vibrations or something like that. Engine room has rust in it, underside surface rust, and a lot of corrosion, it says. left rear frame has a corrosion hole. Aftermarket shift knob, door mirrors, exhaust, suspension, has some tires inside the car, and a rear wiper has been removed. There's also corrosion on the body. And typically you'll get corrosion on the body before, like after you'll get corrosion on the underside. And so if you're browsing cars and you see a car that has corrosion on the fenders, you can almost, like 90% chance it'll also have corrosion on the underside. 71,000 kilometers is low. My ride is in this area, which is not in like the snowy areas, and has a dealer plate on it, so I can't tell which area it came from. Well, the corrosion's a little bit funny, the way that it affects the prices, because most people who are buying cars for themselves are going to go find a different Evo, especially since the prices are not that much cheaper for cars that have corrosion depending on the type of car. For example, this car. I would say that you'll probably see a reduction in the price about 150,000 yen because of the corrosion, but it will probably cost about that to get the corrosion fixed. I'd just get one without corrosion and then not have to worry about the heartache. But the reason why that doesn't affect the price very much is you'll find that a lot of cars like this are targeted by exporters that don't explain the condition of the car. And there are way more cars that sell from this type of exporter that just buys the junk cars, doesn't really tell anyone about the condition of the car, never shows the auction sheet, and then sells them on to countries that maybe they don't have as much knowledge about how the industry works. Maybe they don't subscribe to this channel, otherwise they would, people wouldn't buy cars sight unseen without an auction sheet. At least I think that way, but way more cars sell that way than they do through us. We're still a small exporter. The busiest month we've had is 71 cars, but usually we're doing about 35 to 40 cars per month. And the big exporters are doing over 1,000 cars a month, just to give you some comparison. I find that most of the large exporters are very common to be conning their customers. But beyond that is if they're doing that high of a volume, they can't really give proper service to everybody, and they tend to just get annoyed at anyone who's asking too many questions or doesn't get back to people if the question is too difficult. Yeah, price for this one, I'd say maybe 400,000 yen, 500,000 yen, somewhere in there. Which to some people would be okay. If you know how to weld, this might be a good deal for you. GTIRs, they're going to be more expensive than this. One in good shape is around 1,000,000 yen these days. And it's funny because right when I was getting into this business, was like 12 or 13 years ago, they were selling for like $1,000 for a good condition GTIR. Derek, you still haven't told me your email so I can send you a pic of my Volkswagen. I will show you, Mr. Water-Cooled Performance. Go to our website and go to the contact tab at the top, and then you can find email address right here. Super easy. Or you can phone us in English or in Japanese, because we have one different line for each one. Which is good because when we answer the phone, we'll answer it for you in English instead of answering in Japanese, and then you're like, uh-oh, what do I say? I'm English. What am I supposed to say? And if Holland Oats are amazing, I mean, I could just tell by looking at the pictures, but I'm going to be checking them out for sure. Yes, Bill, most are gone or trashed when it comes to the Pulsars. Absolutely. The trashed part mostly. Okay, so let's find another car that somebody sent in. I'm going to go backwards in the chat. Or if you want to send one in now, then you can do that. This is where it's nice to have a mic here. But sadly, there is no mic at the moment. Northwest Royalty said something that's kind of interest. This was back in the chat a while. Is all you need to do is make auction videos and up garage videos. Neither of those establishments would really be okay with you filming in them. That's the problem. The auction, we used to get auction videos every time that we were there, and they were some of our best videos. And if we could continue making those videos, then I think a lot more people would subscribe to our channel, i.e. would be interested in buying from us in the future. But unfortunately, we got called out by another exporter saying it's not fair that you are making these videos because the auction is private, and the auction sided with that person. They said we had to remove all of those from our channel. And then up garage videos, I shot one a while back. I just was in the shop and I shot it. I think nowadays, I don't know how I would feel about doing that, because you're not really allowed to go into a private establishment and shoot a video like that. I know a lot of people do, but I don't know. I need to pick out some cars to take a look at beforehand so that this doesn't happen. Tell us the most remote country you have exported. Oh, I don't even know. If I were to guess, I'd say we've exported to maybe around 30 to 40 countries, somewhere in that range. Some of them are rather small countries, especially like a lot of Caribbean countries are just a small island, and they love importing cars from Japan. And so I guess that would probably be the answer, but I don't know which one would be the most remote you would consider. Chopper Duel, thank you for sending one in. I'm going to take a look at that one. 256. And by the sounds of it, we got Mike D in the house.
Yes, I'm back.
But this isn't a house, it's an office. And so while there's a toilet and a sink, there is no shower. TAA King D. This one here is a second generation Soarer. That comes with the original wheels on it. That's kind of cool. It's the Mark III Supra wearing a business suit. Mike, how is the pickups?
Good. Sato-san and the young driver. Both very nice. And cars are fine.
Good. This one says the engine puffs white smoke. And so this is only applicable to people who love replacing head gaskets. And what engine is in this one? It's the 2-liter inline 6, the 1G engine. These are known for popping head gaskets. Maybe, I'll walk that back. I have seen many of them at the auction with blown head gaskets, and a few of them that we've bought have had head gaskets go shortly after we bought them. This would lead me to believe that they have problems with head gaskets, but I don't have all the statistics. Underside of the battery is rusty, various scratches and dents. Exterior has various scratches on it, and the left fender has a small dent on it. So it looks like it's in good condition other than the engine. And then at low mileage, it might actually be of good value to buy it to replace the head gasket. And in some very small circumstances, we've had cars that we bought that had marks on them that said the engine has white smoke, and we bought them assuming it's going to have white smoke, and then it didn't when it came in. And so that is something that can happen. We have nobody in our office that is part of the Vape Nation, Elias. It is sad, I know. Although, Ayako, she's here. I didn't expect you to say that, I'm just talking about you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She used to run a school, like that hires foreigners in Japan to teach English to young children, right? And one of the teachers used to have a thing where he would sneak off to the bathroom to vape.
To Vape Nation.
Yeah,
And,
to visit the Vape Nation.
The does that mean the bathroom's the vape station?
Vape
For the
Nation.
Vape Nation?
It definitely was. And he would open the door, and it would like smell like coconut oil when he opens the door. Like suntanning pool boys. Joel wants to look at some FCs. I suppose we could do that.
FC's are cool.
Let's just go back to this one quickly. With the white smoke coming from the exhaust, that's going to turn off a lot of people. Even the previously mentioned exporters that buy the cars with corrosion for the purpose of hiding that, they're not going to be interested in a car like this because it would be very apparent that the engine is blown before they send it out. Not like rust, which they can just claim, oh, I didn't see that. So I would say a pretty low price on this. Maybe you're looking at about 400,000 yen, which for a Soarer I would claim to be a really low price. So that's somewhere around 3,500 US dollars. Yeah, Elias, when I was like, I don't know anything about popular culture, I was lying about that. I'm actually well versed in what the vape niche is.
Vape niche. Oh, I like it.
I have never once smoked a cigarette or a vape pen, and so for people of my generation and older, the vape pen often looks fairly douchey. Just saying that for all of our vaping viewers. I know young people love that stuff these days. It is weird to me.
Yeah, you said it's really popular with school age.
Middle school and high school? Not in Japan, in the U.S.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the U.S. Oh, gotcha.
It's strangely weird.
Yeah.
I've only seen one person vaping here in Japan, and he was vaping just vapor. There was nothing in it. It was just water, and he was doing it because he said that he had a habit of wanting to smoke something, but he wanted to quit smoking and be healthy. But he would still do that because it was like a physiological desire to go through those motions.
Yeah.
So, maybe I don't hang out with anyone. I basically have no friends, Mike. Mike, you're my only friend. Naoko too. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to vape so we can get with the program.
Yeah.
Millennial.
Someone's asking, have we exported to Mexico before?
I don't think you can export to Mexico. I think they're completely blocked off from imports.
That's what I thought too. I think if I remember correctly, they were saying that you can import anything as long as it's 30 years old, but I'm not sure about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. And unfortunately, in Mexico, all of the rules will be in Spanish, and so nobody here will be able to read any of the rules either. And then most sources that you would go for that information that are outside of the official rules would also be in Spanish. Like internet forums for importing might exist there, but it's not something that we'd be able to figure out very easily. And this goes for a lot of the countries that we sell to. The rule is it's your job to know what your rules are. If we know, then we'll be as helpful as we can, but we can't know for every country because there are so many countries and every one changes every once in a while. We once bought a car for Pakistan and then couldn't export it there because the rules changed. Like, we had bought a car, we sent it there. The next month we bought another car, the exact same car, went to send it there, and he's like, nope, the rules just changed because new government came in and they just changed the import rules right away.
Jeez. That's nuts.
Yeah, very strange. And also weird, too, to think that a new government comes in and their first order of business, or in the first month, they're like, I'm going to change the car import rules.
Yeah. Instead of like, I'm going to fix all these things that we need to...
How did you get elected? Where did you get your money from? Yeah. Perhaps you got your money from someone that wants to make sure that cars don't come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is sad. It's sad all around because even countries that we believe we can trust have a lot of that kind of stuff going on too. At least some countries are honest about it. The car we were sending to Pakistan too, that guy, the previous one, he's like, he had his bribe lined up with the person that you bribe.
Wow.
When you bring in the cars.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they put you through the ringer and they don't release the car at the port until you've paid your bribe money.
Yeah.
And to me, this sounds ludicrous.
Yeah.
Someone wanted me to look up something, but now I can't remember. FCs?
Oh yeah, FCs.
Let's have a look.
Yes, please.
FC is the chassis code for the RX-7 that was up until 1992. Or 1991 might have been the last year. None of them at auction right now, but if you want one, I have one. It's quite nice, but it's not really nice.
It's quite launchy.
Yep, it is very launchy.
It's like either go or stop, that's it. Go really fast or stop. Oh.
Bill, I'll only get mad if you tell that joke. If it's anyone else telling jokes, even if they're at my expense, they will roll right off of me. But because I care so much about you, Bill, I will take it seriously. And it will hurt me. It will damage my feelings.
Hurt me.
And Snow White Supra, a lot of people want to buy my FC, but for some reason I don't want to do anything about it. I don't know what it is. I get the cars in and I'm like, I could either do this work or I could prepare the cars for sale. And it always turns out that I want to do other work instead of preparing the cars. I'd really like to hire somebody who's a professional at preparing cars, like cleaning them, fixing things that need to be fixed, going over the interior, polishing the exterior, that sort of thing. I really don't like selling cars because it's a very different dynamic. I mean, that sounds stupid from an exporter whose job is to supply people with cars, but what I mean by that is when I sell a car that we own, we're putting our name behind that car, and you can never be 100% sure that a car is going to be okay when you send it out, but if this is our inventory car, it leads the person to believe that they have a higher expectation of the value of that car. But at the same time, because I'm putting my money into that car, I'm expected to get more profits off of that than a car that's directly bought from auction. And so I don't like this difference between these two. If I get more profit, which is business-wise the right thing to do, it is at the expense of a customer, and I don't like that. And then auction cars, the rule is you get what you get at the auction, and we have nothing to do with the conditions because you choose which cars to bid on, and you have to take that risk because you're buying the car wholesale. If something goes wrong, you will understand that. And then you don't have somebody to go and complain against. And so that way of doing business is nice because we can feel safe that we're not doing anything that's causing any pain to the customers. And so it's maybe that's a good explanation about why I don't like to do inventory sales. But at the same time, that's how most exporters get good money. So it's hard to say.
There you go, Snow White.
Oh,
said he's
AJ Thornton I'm sorry, I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
He said I had an auction number selected, so I couldn't find any of them because of that. So I'll go find that RX-7 now. Yes, you are the winner. Thank you. I should have caught that, but I definitely am not thinking.
That happened.
Too much talking and not much processing in the mind. It's the opposite of what I usually do. I usually don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to sit there and think and then just assume everyone else knows what I know. So 2 to choose from, and they're both from USS Auctions, so I can't show them to you. Sorry about that. You can look yourself, though. And then what were you going to say?
Snow White Super said he is a car detailer and mechanic. And he said hire him, but I would hazard a guess that he's not currently in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for hiring, we've talked about this before, and it tends to upset people. We don't want to hire people from other countries because if it doesn't go well, I feel personally responsible for that person. And I don't want to be keeping somebody in the company that is going to do bad for our company. And I think that our team of employees that we have is just so good that if anyone is even average, they would stick out. And then you don't know what someone's going to be like until you work with them. And you don't know how they're going to take the stresses of living in Japan, because to some people this could be a very stressful thing.
Yeah.
Like, we want someone to have a realistic expectation about living in Japan before we decide to hire them. And if you've lived here for several months before, then this can give you that realistic expectation, or at least a better idea of it.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. And then also when it comes to mechanics and car detailers, and I'm not saying this about anyone in particular, but a lot of people think that they're better than they actually are. And the target person for us would have to be very high skill, and we'd be willing to pay a high amount to somebody who had a high skill. We really can't have somebody who's, good, but thinks that they're so much better. Yeah. And this is something that really personally rubs me the wrong way, is an overconfidence in your own abilities when it comes to things automotive-wise. And I don't know why it is, but it seems like the automotive industry tends to attract that type of person. Or maybe it's just that the people that you see online are like that. There's so much measuring of your appendage, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know more about cars than you do,
Yeah.
and so I'm going to prove it. And like, I just don't like that. And so for me, probably the most important thing is that your personality needs to match with the way that we do our business. And if your personality matches, then we can kind of accommodate for other things. But when it comes to somebody who's working with the cars mechanically, we can't give you room to learn on the job because we don't have anyone to teach you.
Yeah.
I would expect somebody to be a much higher skill than I am at doing that.
And Bill's right. Mandatory boy band haircut rule.
And a mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a 70s.
You have to grow a mustache. For my wife's school, she had a rule: you can't have any facial hair because Japanese people tend to not like the visuals of facial hair.
Yeah.
And one of the employees that we hire was really bitter about that.
Oh, no.
Because to a lot of like people around the world, some people's culture, they'll understand something like that.
Yeah.
But in like Canada or America, they would say, this is my personal expression and you can't change my personal expression, and this is a step too far for an employer. But in Japan, absolutely it's not.
No,
an employer would be able to tell you something like that, and the employees would answer it no question.
Yeah.
They would say, okay, boss, whatever you say.
Yeah.
And
not that that's a good thing, but it's the culture. Yeah.
Right. I think that's a good point to have
Yeah.
been made. But also, most Japanese people just don't have facial hair because they know that society kind of sees it as a little bit scrubby.
Yeah.
And so you're maybe 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 would have facial hair here, whereas it might be, 1 in 10 in another country, or 1 in 6. Yeah, why doesn't Japan like hockey? I think that if you're a Canadian, you might want to ask that for every country other than Russia. And the US, maybe. Yeah, and it's definitely about Japan being jealous of the facial hair, because us whiteys can grow mad facial hair. Except for me. Mine's pretty much a 4 out of 10.
No,
Except for my mustache. My mustache is super rad.
Yeah, mine's hard.
Okay, it seems like a lot of people are having fun in the conversation here, but we got to get back to work. We can't do this all the time. So we're going to sign off here. It's already past noon. We're going to go do work.
Yes.
Mike, answer some emails.
Check bids too.
Style my hair. My hair is just about long enough to put it into a ponytail. I tried that the other day. Just the front pieces fall out a bit.
What about pigtails?
I didn't think about that, but we probably could. I went to ramen last night, and at the ramen shop they have this thing of hair ties, because when you're eating ramen,
right.
and if your hair is too long, it's going to fall into your soup. So they have the hair ties, and my boys always want me to tie my hair when I'm there. They think it's so funny. So I tied my hair in just a little piece like this coming off, thinking I don't want to tie my whole hair because these are annoying to take out, and it got stuck and nobody could take it out of my hair.
Cut.
That's the end of the story.
How did it come out?
Ayako took it out.
I was hoping some cutting was involved. And there's a patch that you've cleverly hidden. Oh, no man buns.
Womp womp. Okay, gonna tie it up here. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.